Whoa, what's this? What's this layout? There we go. I look a little like grainy today. I don't know what's going on with my settings, but you're just gonna have to deal with it. For some reason, StreamYard has me looking like I'm from 1985 on a VHS recorder. Playing it back, recorded over your high school graduation, Tandy Time. That's right. How's everybody doing? It's a sad day for Celtics fans. Not doing too well, the Celtics fans. Two straight 20-point leads obliterated by none other than the New York Knickerbockers out of the Madison Square Garden, the most famous garden of all gardens, other than maybe the one from Adam and Eve, perhaps, where winners win, where championships are made. Unless we're talking about NBA championships, of course. Those are not made very often at Madison Square Garden. But nonetheless, the Boston Celtics are in a gaping 0-2 hole in a best-of-4 series. The defending champion Boston Celtics looking just absolutely terrible when it matters most in this Eastern Conference semifinals versus none other than the New York Knicks. And I gotta say, I watched back some of those important moments of last night's game. I'm going to turn that off now, even though it does capture the mood very well. But man, even like that last actually, you know what? Let's bring the music back, but we're going to just make it a little quieter. It's a little too loud. We might have to just run this music back like the entire show. Hi, King Brett. Nice to see you. I'm sure there's no shot in fraud from the Dallas Mavericks fan over here, King Brett. But like to break it down, throughout the last couple of years, whenever the Celtics are playing like shit, it's because they are over-reliant on the three-point shot. And I thought that this wouldn't be something that would happen in the playoffs, especially when it mattered most. And not the case. They just kept on firing threes. It didn't matter if there was a hand in their face. It didn't matter if the defense was closing out on them. Just tons, just throwing so many threes. And I think they hit 25% of threes, which is terrible. I think they hit 15 threes maybe last night. The night before, also terrible from three. And the difference maker is that if you compare the amount of threes that they were hitting compared to the regular season, especially versus the Knicks, Here's a fun fact for you. In the regular season, the Knicks' worst opponent in terms of played offense the best versus the Knicks were the Boston Celtics. The Celtics destroyed the Knicks in the regular season. Paul Pierce actually had to walk like 8 hours to his studio today to go to his TV studio. But no, Jason Tatum is just shrinking when it matters most. It's like George Costanza when he gets out of the pool. It was cold. The water was cold. That's Jason Tatum right now. There are some major shrinkage when it comes to Jason Tatum rising to the occasion. Right now, there's some major shrinkage. He is playing like absolute garbage these last 2 games. He scored 18 points last night. Both games in the fourth quarter, he has been absolutely garbage, absolute trash. And I can't hate on the fact that the Celtics went to him in the last possession. Like, why wouldn't you? If you watch that game, the possession before that, he literally just took it, ran downhill, and dunked on the Knicks. No one could stop him. Then they pretty much ran what looked like almost the same exact play, and he just couldn't get it off, and Mikal Bridges blocked his shot, and that was all she wrote. But what's just so disappointing to me is how reliant the Celtics were with a 20-point lead, just firing off threes over and over again. And they weren't even very good threes. I mean, a couple of those threes were clear as day and just they could not buy a bucket. But when you can't buy a bucket, you're supposed to go and pound it into the paint and get to the free throw line. Ask SGA. That's what you're supposed to do when the shots aren't falling. So yeah, that was just really rough. The crazy thing to me though is that currently the Celtics are still, I think, even odds to beat the Knicks, which is crazy because throughout the history of the NBA playoffs, when a team is up 2-0, they win the series like 93% of the time. So if you are a betting man or woman and you want to maybe try to take advantage of some odds that might not be laid out correctly, I would put some money on the Knicks. I mean, I'm not about to do that, but 93%, I think, 93% of the time when a team is up 2-0, they win the series. Having said that, Boston fans are delusional and positive, just like King Brett's saying. And like it you can make an argument, of course. Like if the Celtics win game 3, then that will change the feel of the series, I think, because you got to think that the Celtics played like absolute dog shit these first 2 games. I mean, I don't know if they've played that badly in 2 straight games in a very, very long time. I think over the last few years, they every time they lost one game in the playoffs, they won the next one, like the last couple of years, like very frequently. So to lose 2 straight at home, I could be wrong on that, but check the data for me. I need my stats person in here. But yeah, anyway, Porzingis also had some strange injury, or he was in illness. I mean, he couldn't play the second half of the first game. He played the second game, but he's not playing very well. He's not playing himself. He's got under 10 rebounds every game. So yeah, it's looking very weird right now for the Celtics, just relying on the 3. Players not playing very well, not looking good. So anyway, I had to go live today, even if I may not have wanted to, because I had to give Stan Loves a chance to dunk on me. We got to give the Heat fan a chance to dunk on somebody else, because when you're a fan of arguably one of the bottom tier franchises right now, you got to give him a chance to get it out, to let it out, and to take out his scrutiny on somebody else. Anyway, thank you for being here, though. Thank you for being here to talk with me, to talk it out. We'll talk a little about NBA, about Top Shot. Maybe we'll talk about little current events on the timeline. Just get together. That's what we like to do. We like to get together here and chat. Stan says we need Weisberg in the corner. I mean, look, it's true that the last year, Heat fans need to wait a bit. Yeah, that's true. A new American Pope just dropped. That's true. I'm sure there's probably a meme coin that you can go chase. Apparently, people that were using the prediction websites made out pretty well. Somebody made like it turned $600 into like $60,000 or something like that because they bet that this guy was going to be the next pope. And apparently he's from New York. He's from Villanova. So Villanova is having a very big week right now in terms of the Knicks superstars and the Pope all coming out of Villanova in New York. Yeah, so Celtics, that's tough. If we run through the rest of what's going on in the playoffs, on the other side of the Eastern Conference, we have the Pacers and the Cavs. The Pacers with a commanding 2-0 lead. That lead is actually almost less surprising because the Cavs are missing key players. They're missing Mobley and they're missing Garland, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, if those two stay injured, this kind of looks like the Pacers series, which is pretty surprising. I didn't think anybody thought the Pacers would be playing this well. I don't think anybody thought that Halliburton would be playing this well. He had his second game-winning shot of the playoffs. Just playing unbelievably. In Top Shot terms, I don't believe we're going to see that moment as a what's it called? As a 10 of 10, as an ultimate, because it's not a series win, I think. And we can talk about the ultimate conversation as well, because I think we should. We didn't get to talk about that last week. I'll make a note to come back to the ultimates. We'll talk about the ultimates. This was a very hot topic. We even saw Dream Shaker and Libruary and Steve. Everybody was coming together. They had a big old hoedown on Twitter Spaces, and everybody was getting very, very up in their feelings and talking about, I mean, I think I heard it went pretty well. I listened to a little bit of it. It was like an hour and a half. You know, when you miss it right off the bat and then I couldn't speed it up listening to it on my phone, that doesn't work for me. You know, if I miss something live and then I watch it back, I'm watching that thing at 1.5, at least 1.5. If it's over like an hour, I might even go to 1.7. You know what I'm saying? I might feel a little frisky and go to 1.7. Might even go to 2. Don't tempt me. Don't threaten me with a good time. I might go 2x. Anyway. So yeah, we'll talk about ultimates in a minute. But yeah, Pacers, right? Pacers 2-0. Unbelievable. Can you imagine if the Pacers make it to the finals? Can you imagine if we have a Pacers Knicks Eastern Conference Finals? That is crazy. That's crazy talk. But people love the Knicks. So if the Knicks can make it, it doesn't matter who they're going to be facing. The USA, the country of the United States of America, by and large, likes the Knicks. They like rooting against the Celtics. So I think people are probably enjoying that series. Over on the Western side of things, the T-Wolves lost game 1 to the Golden State Warriors, another team that I didn't think they were going to play this well, but it just shows you that it's that championship caliber. It's like that Bill Belichick effect. Once you get in there and you got the experience, you just turn it on at the right time, which also tells me that the NBA season is just too long. These teams are just kind of lollygagging, and then they're really playing their hearts out in the playoffs. I think we've had this conversation before. It makes me feel like the season should be shorter, but that's never going to happen. But a key injury, though, to Steph Curry, who might miss a week of play. So Buddy Hield is going to have to step it up. You know, the other players, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, the youngins, they're all going to have to step it up. And on the other side of the game, on the other side of the court, Anthony Edwards, you know, he was not playing well, and the Timberwolves just weren't playing well. And so they're missing Karl Anthony Towns, big cat, I would say. And finally, the last series that's going on right now is the Thunder and the Nuggets. Interesting series there. The last game, the Thunder absolutely blew them out. And apparently the Nuggets just don't have the bench, basically. They don't have the bench because Jokic and Murray, they scored 69 combined points. Nice. But their supporting cast couldn't get it done. They could not get it done. So that's what we got for the NBA playoffs. We have a surprising things going on with the Pacers in charge, the Knicks in charge, you know, the Warriors back in charge, and perhaps they can even still get it done without Steph Curry. I don't know, but that's why this year's playoffs, I think, has been pretty interesting. I think as general NBA fans, you got your Mavs fans in the chat, you got your Heat fans in the chat, You got your Dutch people in the chat. Like these people probably are enjoying what's going on. So Brett says that Halliburton was on fire. By the Wine says OKC will win it all. Brett thinks that Nuggets are too old and too slow. Maybe. Perfect Series asking, can a player get more than one ultimate in this set? When Tandy ultimate? Probably very soon. If they can flip it, if the Pack Rippers want to get their hands on a Tandy ultimate, then I'm sure we'll see one soon. King Brett's talking about hockey. Blocked. Should we block Brett right now? Anyway, let's talk about ultimates, okay? Let's go to Top Shot. Let's talk about ultimates. Actually, before we do that, the championship odds, just so you guys know, the favorite currently is the Oklahoma City Thunder at plus 125. So if you lay $100, you win $125. But behind them, as of today, is the Celtics, which is just insane. The Celtics are at plus 330, then the Cavs, then the Knicks, then the T-Wolves, Pacers, Nuggets, and Warriors. So that's also interesting that the Warriors, who are up in their series, are 20-1 odds. Nuggets 14-1, Pacers 13-1, Timberwolves 10-1, Knicks 10-1, Cavs 8.5-1, Celtics 3.3-1, and Oklahoma City basically even 1.25-1. So if we now check out a little bit of Top Shot, we can just see what's going on. I always like to just kind of look at what's going on together. We'll do it live, as they say. We'll do it live. There is Top Shot peeking inside of the pack. Here we go. Peeking inside of the pack. I do like the peek in the pack. I got to admit, I like it. But anyways, we got more instant buybacks. I think that is something, if we're going to say positive things tonight, I do think that the instant buybacks are a very positive thing. The point that you can get instant liquidity, even if it is in the form of Dapper dollars, which you then, you use to do something else on the platform. But I think that is still very cool, and it's also very unique to digital collectibles, right? You couldn't have that on a physical pack of cards, could you? You can't go to the Walmart person and say, hey, I didn't like this pack. Give me $4. I paid $7. I want $4. Give me it right now. I'll use it for more store credit. No. So the fact that does exist is unique, I would say, to Top Shot. The packs are still getting over prescribed, over reserved, and I think they are selling at a premium. I forget what this guaranteed one was selling for. So it's selling for a few dollars over. It was selling for $69. Nice. And now it's selling for $76. You got your challenges here. You got a legendary Anthony Edwards. You got a rare Anthony Edwards. You got a rare Donovan Mitchell, etc., etc. So yeah, pardon my terrible browser, but and then in terms of can you have more than one ultimates? This is where we're going to have to go back to this playoffs Q&A or FAQ that was released just now, which I got to admit, it's a lot of information. This is a lot of information. And I was, I know that the redemptions were also kind of a lot of information, but this feels like a lot of information, which for something that I thought was going to be a little more simple. But anyways, if we're going to talk about if a player can have more than one ultimate, we can try and go figure that out. So players can receive 1 moment per round, excluding rewards, and it may be featured across all 4 tiers. So then it sounds like a player can have multiple ultimates if I'm understanding this correctly. And of course, I cannot guarantee that I'm understanding anything correctly. But if this is true, players can only receive 1 moment per round, excluding rewards, so possibly 2 moments per round if they get a reward. And that 1 moment may be featured across all 4 tiers, and the 4 tiers includes ultimate. So, yeah, I mean, I would hope that as the people making the important decisions, that they won't put 2 ultimates of a player in this set, but I think it's possible. And let's talk now a little bit then about ultimates, about this argument with ultimates and against ultimates and for ultimates and so on. If any of you guys were part of that Twitter Spaces, or if you listened to it, or you want to just kind of share your take, please do so, because I did not listen to the whole thing and I'm kind of just giving my take on it now. So if you guys have any key points you want to share, let me know. But what I did see, for example, I know that Steve was very counter or anti-ultimates. I think Library was more kind of neutral. Drew Austin was very pro. I saw someone else, I forget his name, on Twitter, who was also very pro. And the people that were more pro, these people were saying things like, this is the encyclopedia of basketball. That's what Top Shot's supposed to be. Mint the best moments. And even if you mint an ultimate, and if you look at the details, by the way, of how they are releasing the ultimate, out of 10, a few of them were being held for like very, very difficult to attain trade-ins. So even though they're out of 10, I think some of these ultimates will remain out of like 5 or something. So it feels a little bit less of a, every time you can reduce that by a little bit, I think it's a good thing. Because the argument of the counter ultimates is that these are kind of becoming the new legendaries, because legendaries were legendary. They were the ultimates before ultimates, right? They are the highest tier you could have, and they were supposed to be the most special on the platform. But we always knew that there were these ultimates that were like one of ones that were being held behind and had never been released. Then they decide to release these one of one ultimates only for rookies. And that was very interesting. But we have expanded, and you'll hear people like Drew Austin, who's very pro Top Shot, and also just very pro like startups adjust, they change, they adapt, they morph, etc. And so his argument was like, of course they're going to be tinkering around, of course they're going to be changing things up a little bit, and you shouldn't be surprised by that. But people like Steve and Library, who spend a lot of money and complete legendary sets and collect very expensive legendary moments, get a little nervous because all of a sudden there's something more scarce than legendary. And they thought it was only going to be for rookies, but now it's not. Now it's also for players in the NBA playoffs. And in this case, players who have a series ending win. That's what we've seen so far with these ultimates. And my problem with this is that I think that ultimates, as of right now, like when they expanded, they were rookies of MVPs, right? They're rookies of MVPs. So that was still pretty interesting. And it was a pretty interesting wrinkle. Even though it was out of 10, it still felt understandable to me that ultimates are reserved for rookies. The first ones are for current year rookies, very scarce, one of one, the ultimate, very hard to get your hands on, etc., very expensive. Then they expanded it, and now you could kind of chase these in packs, and you could do those with the other ones too, but now more people could get their hands on them, and they were reserved for rookie moments of MVP players. Now it's expanded again, and now it appears to be the top moments, the top series, perhaps series winning moments from the NBA playoffs. The problem I have is that I think rookies are always going to be in their own lane, whether it's physical or in this case digital. Everyone wants to collect rookies. That's why when they did that with the rookies, it made sense to me. And then again, it's just one little bunny hop away to say rookies of MVPs. You're still like in that same lane. But I think that if you're going to now expand beyond that, and it's going to be the most scarce, most incredible moment of a player, it really should be reserved for career-defining moments, in my opinion. Career-defining moments of a player. Now, of course, you don't always know what that's going to be. It probably makes more sense, honestly, to do those kind of moments backwards, because you already know, like, oh, when Giannis, for example, if you could do it all over again, when Giannis had that block in the finals, that's definitely a career-defining moment. When LeBron had his block in the finals, that was also a career-defining moment. Like, these are the ultimate moments of NBA history, bar none. No one can argue against that. Is it, so you have your rookies, you have your rookies of MVPs, rookie moments of MVPs, and then you have your absolute best of the best career defining moments. And if you're going to do them for new moments, then that's fine. You just have to be very, very selective. But the problem is, especially when you come up with this kind of strategy around like creating hits inside of packs, is that you kind of have to learn to fly as you're jumping off the building. And I think that's what's always hard about doing a product like this. But I think that if they had minted the game-winning shot by Halliburton and the game-winning shot and series-winning shot, I should say, by Halliburton and the series-winning shot by Brunson, why not just make them legendaries? No one would have batted an eye if you made those legendaries. Make those legendary moments. They're still really great chase cards. You can still offer nice buybacks. You can still probably mint more of them and sell a lot of packs still. So that's kind of what I was scratching my head about a little bit because, Tyrese Halliburton now has this ultimate. Jalen Brunson now has this ultimate. One of those guys is going to lose in this playoffs, like guaranteed, possibly both of them. And so then the question becomes, is that a career defining moment when you won in the first round? Like one of those guys might not make it out of this second round. I mean, they both have a lead, but they might not, or they might not, one of those guys might not win the finals. So when one of those guys loses in the playoffs, is it going to be a career defining moment that you're going to think back and say, oh man, I remember when whatever, let's just use Brunson since the Celtics are going to come back, of course. I remember when Brunson hit that first round 3-pointer to take the series for the Knicks. Is that a career defining moment if they lost in the second round, let's say, because the Celtics came roaring back and beat them in 7 games? Knock on wood, of course. Sorry, Knicks fans. But if that happens, was that Brunson shot a career defining moment? Was that an ultimate moment of Brunson? I'm not so sure it is. And if it was a legendary moment, we'd never be having this conversation. It would just be fine. Yeah, it's a legendary moment. There's nothing to argue about here. So that's my take on these ultimates. Now there's no putting the genie back in the bottle now, right? The genie is out of the bottle. They've made their decision. Series winning plays as of right now are minted as ultimates. They're minted across the 4 different tiers, which is also something new, right? We haven't seen that for quite a while. I still don't really know exactly how I feel about that. I do think it's cool how each moment is slightly different and slightly more special. So it does feel different to own, let's say, a legendary versus a common. And that's not very far away from how they do it in physical, where, one has a shiny background, another has a shinier background, and one of them has a 3D background or whatever. And people pay top dollar for the 3D background versus the less shiny background. I mean, this has gone on cards forever. So in one sense, it's almost as if when you think about marketing wise, and you think about audience, in my opinion, and we've been parroting this for a long time, but the big group of physical collectors, if and when they decide that digital is the way to go, they will understand this perfectly. I mean, Top Shot didn't really nail the parallels when they first laid it out. And part of that might just be because of how it was laid out. I mean, you could kind of make that argument right now against, or just sort of to take away a little bit. For example, like this playoff communications coming out a little bit late, isn't it? It's coming out a little late, talking about the ultimates, talking about the way they decided to do what they've done in the playoffs. It came out at the end of the first round, basically. So there's been a little bit of an issue in terms of just getting comms out at the right time. And I think a lot of people were also echoing that on the timeline, just being like, yeah, this is good information, but man, you could have released this like 2 weeks ago. But I can't really tell you how the sausage is being made because I'm not making sausage right now. Let's take a look at the chat. Badwine says, remember the people of Walmart meme? We need a people of Top Shot. Well, isn't that the chat? Badwine, isn't that the people that are in the chat right now? Perfect Cereal says, I think we unfortunately need to give up on scarcity or restraint on moments being minted. Those have been over for a long time. This product can still be cool for other reasons, but it won't be those reasons. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Um, Um, the blog though that came out was talking about how through a mix of these trade-ins and buybacks and everything, like the collectors, the people who actually want the moments are going to hold the moments. It's not going to be a mass flooding of moments, but it's understandable how it still feels that way, especially when you have multiple parallels, basically, because they are of of a player that definitely looks very like whether or not the total amount of moments is huge or not, when you have 4 new additions of a player, it feels huge. So I that's another thing, like, on the marketplace wise that they probably need to figure out also. But it's true, it's like Top Shot after releasing a ton of supply in, like, Series 2, Series 3, Series 4, unless they decide to truly target those moments for burning, which they've shown that they don't really wanna do, because they wanna keep the focus on what they can control currently, right? They wanna be able to sell the new stuff and then have you have to use that new stuff to get other new stuff so that, you kinda have to get the new stuff to get the other new stuff, and therefore, you're not using the old stuff. They have also shifted away from Top Shot Score in terms of trade-ins, which was giving you a benefit of using that old overinflated stuff. At this point, it definitely feels like the focus just isn't on the old stuff. And I know that, like, when Matt Roth was on the show, he also was kind of trying to speculate that they would do that. And I think I warned him that they probably won't do that because that's how it's gone thus far, right? So and in Top Shot's corner, in Top Shot's defense, like, if you look at how So Rare does it, it's kinda similar. Like, the older stuff becomes less of a game piece. It becomes less valuable on the platform. Not even as a game piece in that case, because that's a game. But still, that's, like, how these companies work. They need you to keep buying the new stuff. They need to keep making you believe that the new stuff is the stuff you need. So it's an interesting there's a lot of different, like, ways to collect on Top Shot. And look, if you believe in the product long term, then there's some very, very cheap moments to be had from those inflated count series. But if you want to be a little more careful, then you probably flip the new stuff, hold on to a few nice old things if you want to. Walking Tourist 4K. That looks like it's probably going to be an interesting channel. Are you new here, Walking Tourist, or did you just change your username? But he says, I like the video rarity tier variances way better than those parallel with the same sequence. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That was definitely something better about these new moments compared to the old parallel ones. And Bodwine says, when Stromile Swift archive ultimates? Listen, I could just kind of make one using a little video editing program and I could mint it myself. It might not be on Top Shot, but I could do that for you and we could just work out a price. All right, so that's what's going on Top Shot and the NBA playoffs. There's other things happening too. We could do a little not financial advice, financial advice. Everybody loves not financial advice, don't we? And today is a big day for cryptocurrency. Why? Because Bitcoin is back over $100,000. $100,000. So we talked about Bitcoin on this show a couple weeks ago, right? So if we go on the weekly chart, here's where we were a couple weeks ago, right? We were still doing pretty damn well. We were at $93,000. 2 weeks later, we are at $101,000. And as you can see, we are basically at the highs of the week. We just keep on pumping. We just keep on going up. We just hit the high just now. That's the high. So when you see a candle and there's no wick at the top, it's just body. Remember, we're learning. We're learning all about wicks and bodies, aren't we, children? When you just see the body at the top and no wick, that means we are at all-time highs of this week, or highs of the week. In terms of the week, we're looking at the week. If we look at the month, we're at the highs of the month. If we look at the year, we are not at the highs of the year. Why is that? Because this is called a wick. This shows you how high the buyers took it, and then it shows you how low the sellers sent it back down. So the all-time high of Bitcoin is right around, how much is it? $109,358. 109,000. And we are only $7,000 away. And if you look at how much movement this thing has done, it did a $7,000 move this week, and we're only on Thursday. So what about here? It did a $8,500 move 2 weeks ago, and last week it had done I don't know actually from the high to the low. From the high to the low was also like a $5,000 move. So if this thing keeps on going, it's not crazy to think that we're going to see all-time highs within the next week. Look at that. We just broke $102,000 for Bitcoin. So this should spell pretty good things for the rest of the crypto market. I don't know about like altcoins. We always say that. Like if we go to like Fartcoin, let's go check out Fartcoin. Fartcoin, Fartcoin's also doing well. Like it's at the highs of the week. If we go to like the daily chart, doing pretty well on the day. So there you go. Fartcoin. If we go to Flow, let's go to Flow USD. Let's see how that's doing. Flow also doing pretty well. I mean, it's none of them are spiking as hard as Bitcoin though, because Bitcoin is the headline grabber. Everyone's talking about Bitcoin. There was a news report today that said that banks can now custody, buy, and sell cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrency, this magical internet money, is definitely getting more and more adoption. And look at that, man. Even Ethereum is up crazy today. Look at that. Ethereum is up $333 today. It has broke over $2,000. And what did we say just now for Solana? I kind of just went right past it. Solana is at 161. If you go to like XRP, where is that? XRP USD, that's Ripple. Everything doing quite well, but you can see that nothing is launching to the holy heavens. Let me explain to you, like this is a potential resistance area, right? This area right here. You want to see it break above. If you're looking at Ripple, if you're looking at Ethereum, this has broken above. So this is pretty strong. If you're looking at Bitcoin, that has completely broken above anything in this area. So Bitcoin is clearly the market leader. I mean, this thing might go to 103,000 while I'm just talking to you. I mean, it's crazy that we are up $5,000 on Bitcoin just today. And like I said, 7,000 or so away from all-time highs. So that is pretty exciting if you are a believer in cryptocurrency. And if you're holding ETH, congratulations. If you're holding Bitcoin, big congratulations. It's a good time to be a degenerate on the internet with magical internet money. So congratulations to any of you guys if you are interested in cryptocurrency. There's also something else that I don't really understand too well about, so I probably shouldn't even talk about it, but I will anyway. But there's something called Misty, which is this thing. It's basically, it gives you yield, and the yield is tied to Bitcoin. And people are absolutely printing. Like the dividends are out of control. It's $2 per share of Misty. So right now, Misty costs $23. So if you put in, I think somebody was talking about like they put in $100,000 into Misty. So if you divide it by 24, that's 4,166 shares. And the dividend is going to be like $2.30. And that's over $9,000 in dividends. But most of us, I would say, don't have $100,000 to throw around. But let's say you threw, I don't know, let's just call it 10 grand. I'm just curious. If we put 10 grand, not that I have 10 grand right now either, but if we put 10 grand, we divide it by 24, that's 416. So 416, I think I said it's like 237. So that would still get you $1,000 in dividends this month, which is an absolutely crazy return. So whether or not that's going to end up like the Luna cryptocurrency disaster, I'm kind of scared to touch this thing because it seems too easy. And I don't trust when things seem too easy. Like just, oh yeah, you can make like 100% of your money in a year. That does not seem right to me. So, but I'm just throwing it out there. If some of you guys in the chat are smarter than me, or you're listening to this later and you're smarter than me, then go ahead and tell me how it goes, or go ahead and tell me why it's a good idea or a terrible idea. Um, let's see. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Let me see. Let's see. I guess the only other thing, not the only other thing, but one other thing that I was thinking about is the fact that Kanye West put out a music video and song that literally has Adolf Hitler chanting or like doing one of his speeches at the end of the song, and the chorus of the song is Heil Hitler. It's it's obviously to rile people up and get people's blood boiling, I suppose. But it's pretty unfortunate how popular hating on Jewish people is right now. It's so popular, in fact, that you can literally make music called Heil Hitler and include Adolf Hitler at the end of the song, and it's totally fine. And like, I'm not hearing too much outrage about this, which is a little scary. Because there's a famous quote. I think it was actually by a Holocaust survivor who said, like, I'm gonna butcher this quote completely, but basically, like, first they come for, in this case, the Jewish people, and you just sit there. Then they come for the next group, and you just sit there. And then they come for the next group, and then you just sit there. And eventually they come for you. And it's pretty messed up. So it's sad to me as well, because I always really liked Kanye West a lot as a music producer. I always thought he was a genius, but apparently his dentist gave him too much nitrous oxide and like destroyed his brain. And I think we're seeing that. I mean, he's still an incredibly talented producer, but he has scrambled eggs for brains at this point. And yeah, just disappointing. I don't have a whole lot else to talk about today, though. I feel like we hit the main points. We talked about this Ultimates thing on Top Shot. We talked about the playoffs. We talked about Bitcoin. That's over 102,000 right now. And we talked about Kanye West being a complete freak. We also, we want some Weisberg in the corner. We can do that. We didn't also talk about a little more about Shannon Sharp, who is still a creep. And apparently more stories are coming out about him just being a complete creep. He even had a video where he was telling off, I assume was like that young white girl in the corner. He's like, shut the fuck. He like said that. You saw that video, and man. And somehow he just keeps going, though. I mean, he's just keeps going. He's like the Teflon Don. Anyway, let's play a little Weisberg in the corner for By the Wine.
That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight. Losing my religion. Trying to keep up with you. And I don't know if I can do it. Oh no, I've said too much. I haven't said enough.
So Stan says that Judgy had, it's actually Stan that wanted the video, not By the Wine. Stan says that Judge had a stream the other day. What did he stream about, Stan? Was it a good stream? I do really miss streaming with the Judge. That was like some of the most funny streams that I've ever taken part in. And once in a while, like once a year, I will just listen back to the Morning Roast. We did that show for maybe 4 or 5 episodes, and I will die laughing. We had so much fun on that show. So it is a shame that that fell off, and that Judgy doesn't really come on the show or stream himself all that much. But he's devastated about his Bucks. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have high hopes if I'm a Bucks fan this year. I mean, they weren't really playing like themselves. I'd be devastated, though, thinking that Giannis might jump ship. That would be terrible. But that's all I got, guys. I don't really have anything else today. I think we did okay. We're kind of a little short. This one was a little bit shorter than usual, but I don't really have anything else to talk about unless you guys want to talk about something. You want to throw it in the chat. You want to ask me a question. We'll do a fist bump as well. If that's what Stan Loves wants, then we will do it.
So I appreciate it. Yeah, man, that was awkward. Fist bump. Don't clip that. Don't clip that. Just gonna clip that. It's gonna go viral. Jesus Christ. No, I appreciate it. It was weird.
But one last thing I will say though about this whole Bitcoin pump is that, does it not feel like it to you that the general public is finally truly coming around on cryptocurrencies? Like, does it not feel like to you that Bitcoin at 100,000 is still undervalued? I mean, that's obviously a little rich for anybody's blood at this point to go and try to, get your hands on an entire Bitcoin. But it's kind of insane to me that enough people across the world have decided that this is what this currency should trade for. It's crazy, because if it holds over 100,000, like, what's that going to mean for all the other currencies, all the other cryptocurrencies? What's it going to mean for the people holding Ethereum and Solana and whatever else? Like, it's all going to become more legitimate. And I don't know about you, but I can, it's hard for me to remember like the last time I paid for something with cash. Everything gets paid for with my phone. Actually, at this point, I just use my Apple wallet, and then it just kind of contact, and then you just pay with your wallet, and it's all digital. It's all digital. Everything is digital. When I went to Brazil, and I don't have a Brazilian cell phone or a Brazilian bank, and almost no one wanted to use cash. They have a system there called Pix, which is very similar to like Zelle in the United States, or here in Portugal, it's called MBWay. Like, every country has their version of this. And in Brazil, like, no one wanted cash. Everyone wanted Pix, because that's just it's the easier, cleaner way to deal. So it's all just digital transactions. Everything is digital. So why would having your money also digital be that much of a leap? It shouldn't feel like a leap. It's everything is digital. And I mean, this can lend itself to digital collectibles as well. I mean, that's where this all came from. Everything is digital. It's all getting more and more digital. So it is interesting. I mean, you hear people like Michael Saylor say that, Bitcoin's going to be worth $400-500 million. I don't know, maybe in 1,000 years. I mean, I think in our lifetimes, though, in 10 years from now, is it crazy to think that Bitcoin could be worth like $500,000, $1 million? Is it that crazy to do a 5 or 10x from here? I don't think it is. So it's pretty exciting for people who are curious and who believe in cryptocurrency. Bottleline says, are you tuning into the Victory Day parade tomorrow? I'm a sucker for Putin's revisionist history takes, so I will. No, I don't think I will, Bottleline, but if you want to clip something for me and send it over, I would be happy to look at it. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping me entertained. This is as much as it is for you. It is for me. I just enjoy talking to myself and talking to the chat. I just feel like the king of the castle.
King in the castle, king in the castle.
And yeah, so I was saying maybe during this stream, Bitcoin would be worth 103. Let's go see if I'm right. I don't think I will be, but apparently during this stream, Ethereum keeps pumping. But currently, Bitcoin is worth 102,500 basically. So we are $500 away from $103,000 Bitcoin, and Ethereum is currently trading. It was almost trading at 2,200. It's now at 2,191. But holy hell, look at that candle for Ethereum. That is unbelievable. For the Ethereum believers that have been getting made fun of for the last, I don't know how long, the fact that we can see a candle like this is unreal. We just don't want to see another candle like this right after, right? That is brutal. What happened here? It went up 300 and down 370 in a matter of a day, and then the next day. So we are still pretty far away from the highs of Ethereum. If you look at like the monthly chart, that obviously shows you very clearly where the highs are. The highs are up here over almost $5,000 were the highs of Ethereum. So it definitely hurts to consider that Ethereum is down more than 50% from its highs, whereas you compare that to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is right up there. It's like right up at the high. So if you had purchased however much money and put it in Bitcoin compared to Ethereum, you'd be doing a whole lot better. Yeah, Ethereum just has not been performing well at all. So it's very nice to see that the people holding Ethereum are finally getting a little bit of a pump. And hopefully we can keep seeing that go up. Because I know like a lot of people, especially Top Shot people, also are Ethereum people because those are NFT people as well. But anyway, Peachy showing up in like the last 2 minutes when I'm about to shut down the stream. But Peachy, I'm sorry. Something I didn't talk about on the stream actually was that that Popovich video. So I know Peachy is a Spurs fan, and Greg Popovich, who suffered a stroke, and we got to see him recently. So he came out there with Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan and had a press conference. And he got up there and he said, I guess, okay. He got up there and basically had like a little fun kind of press conference, a little lighthearted press conference where he said he's no longer the coach. He's now El Jefe, and people had a laugh. But it was kind of tough seeing him out there like that. I mean, he obviously having a stroke is a serious health issue and completely changes you as a person, because you could see how he now struggles to walk. He cannot use one of his hands or his arms as of right now. And he just looks quite sickly because a stroke obviously deeply affects the way your body, you use your body, the way you use your brain, the way you can speak, the way you can walk, the way you can move around. So that was tough to see. I guess, it's hard getting old, isn't it? It's hard seeing people get old. Take care of yourself and enjoy the time you have with your loved ones, and because it's hard seeing people get old. But you got to hand it to Popovich, because he obviously was always in the limelight. He was always out there with like quick one-liners, very sharp guy, always very funny, amazing career. I was thinking about this, like he not only has coached Hall of Famers, like some of the best players in the history of basketball and the future of basketball, the fact that he could coach like Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Victor Wembanyama, Ginobili, Tony Parker, like some of the greatest players in the history of basketball and for the history that will be made still under Greg Popovich. And he got to coach against some of the greatest players in the history of basketball as well. So it's unbelievable that he got to go toe to toe and defeat, the Lakers and Kobe and Shaq, and defeat LeBron James. And it's really an unbelievable career that he's had. And you also just have to hand it to somebody like him. What I was trying to get at is the fact that he's always in the limelight, or has always been in the limelight, with quick one-liners and such. And now he clearly is not the same guy. And just sort of having that ability to still go out there when obviously you see yourself and you see how different you are, and you see how, I'm sure that isn't easy for him. And the fact that he could still do that sort of shows what kind of person he is as well. So anyhow, I hope that Popovich can rest and recover, and he's had an unbelievable career. And I think that when people do have strokes, they can recover. I don't know to what point though. I don't know, like, do they get their arm function back? Do they speak differently in the future? I don't know. It probably depends on health. It probably depends on age. But anyway, I did want to mention that. So Peachy showing up to the chat with like 5 minutes to go definitely made me think of that. So yeah, we definitely, everyone on Tandy Time and in the chat, we send our best wishes to Greg Popovich and Spurs Nation. Perfect Serial says he's the greatest coach of all time, and Peachy said, yeah, it did hurt seeing him like that. Yeah, it definitely did. But I think, like I said, the bright side of it is just showing what kind of guy he is. Because imagine that was you. Imagine what your career was, and you know how sick you are at this point, but you still go out there and you still try to make some people laugh, and it says a lot about him. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. I thought we were going to cut it 10 minutes ago. We're still here. I still had my eye on Bitcoin to see if we could hit 103. But that does not appear to be happening just quite yet. It might happen by the end of tonight, though. I mean, for you guys, it's like the late afternoon. It could very well happen like in the next 30 minutes. We're at 102,638 right now. So this thing is just pumping like crazy. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it. It's crazy. So thanks for being here, though, guys. If you're holding Ethereum or Bitcoin, congratulations. And we will talk again soon. Will it be next week? Will it be the next week, the week after? I'm not sure yet. Things are a little hectic for me at the moment, but I enjoyed being with you guys here today. And I will see you again soon. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. Go eat some good food. And we'll talk again soon. Bye.
Static Selector.